welcome to Tsom, the platform that is adventurous, full of passion and open conversation with people living in Japan. We believe that Japan deserves a more collaborative and supportive community, and that's why we're here to support you and make you change your mind about you and your life in Japan. And you probably heard about job hunting. A lot of people heard a lot of myths and legends and probably a lot of scary stories about it. And here we're at today to lessen your headache about job hunting by talking to our amazing guest, Austin Zeng, who is not only he is a president of MEXT Scholarship Association, but he is also a successful freelance engineer who is recently promoting Japanese artisan sake to international market. So, hi, Austin. Thanks for coming.
Hi, glad to be here.
I remember I first met you during the MSA. There was a gathering
Yes.
where you welcome MEXT students, and I was really surprised how great of a job you did to help out so many people with your Q&R sessions. And I could feel that everything that you talked about comes from your own experience and from your genuine compassion to people. So, can you tell a little bit about your story? How did you end up being in Japan?
Well, my story goes back like 15 years actually. Back then, in Singapore, they started like showing Japanese anime. So I was actually one of them who got entirely addicted into Japanese anime back when I was like 13. So from there, I started to learn Japanese because for me, it was more like if I could watch these things without relying on subtitles, I might as well. And so that's why I started learning Japanese from middle school and then and then high school and stuff like that. It was during that time that I also like got to know other fellow Japanese language learners, and then I got to know about the MEXT Scholarship. And I applied for it. Thankfully, I got it, and that's how I came to Japan in 2012. First year in Osaka for the preparation course, and then I entered Toda in 2013, did my undergraduate there, and graduated afterwards. So that's pretty much like the how I got to Japan and how I graduated, right? But if you're talking about my activities regarding job hunting and foreigners and stuff like that, to give a brief summary, we created this organization, MEXT Scholars Association, in 2016, back when I was a student. The basic idea was that we knew a few senpais, but it's very ad hoc. Some people don't even know any senpais, right? And because of that, there was a big gap of information for people to actually get to know things, even from how to job hunt and how to even find a house in Japan. And so through making an organization, we thought that that's going to be a platform for us to share information, let people get to know each other, as well as in a sense giving the information that people need to ensure that the MEXT scholarship is a plus to their lives in their careers, and ensuring that it's not so much of a headache when you're actually living in Japan as a foreigner. We all know what it is, right? So that's one thing. So since then, especially because I'm pretty much the person who knows the most about foreign student careers in there. So when it comes to MSA career activities, my face will come out often. One side point to that is also the fact that I have done multiple years of surveys for foreign students regarding careers, regarding what difficulties people are facing regarding the shukatsu, the job hunting. So it's not just MSA, but also I have this research experience does inform what I can talk about for the job hunting experience for foreign students. Yeah.
Wow. So was it like that your research that you did was actually your thesis?
No, the funny thing about my thesis was that my thesis was about women's universities in Japan and and analyzing their websites to see how much traditional femininity there was inside the websites.
Oh, interesting.
It's actually quite interesting because entirely side note, American women's universities have come from, I'm not American, but American women's universities come from a place of female empowerment.
Right.
So female leaders. But if you look at many Japanese women's universities websites, you see lots of flowers, you see lots of pink, you see lots of, there's actually a university somewhere which talks about エレガント力を育てる.
How to be a perfect housewife.
I
Right?
won't say
Pretty
that.
much.
I won't say that, but like
Yeah,
you get the point.
that's the
So
thing.
that was a very interesting thing that I found, and that's what's my
Alright.
thesis. On hindsight, I maybe should have just written about foreign students because that was
Yeah.
what I was doing at the same time as well.
I see. I
But
see.
that's not what I was doing in terms of my academic career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you yourself, when you graduated, you started doing the job hunting,
Mhm.
and you experienced that. So I think a lot of people, you wrote the article like
Yep.
about how many mistakes people do
Yes,
about
yes.
job hunting. Can you tell about it?
The funny thing is, I never did job hunting.
Really? Wow.
I got
Mhm.
my first job without even entering a single interview room, without wearing a recruiter suit.
That's good. Good. Yeah. Do you think
I-
people can take me with this kind of suits for job hunting?
I would even say yes, but it depends on the company.
Okay.
And this is why I write my stuff as well, because the thing is that people have an image about Japan.
Yeah.
That image is most often true. You're looking at the
Mm.
Japan that is the black and white suits,
Right.
but it also is the Japan that is not the black and white suits. And my own advice to many people is just aim for those companies where you don't have to wear the black and white suits. That's one thing. Taking this idea and a stereotype of Japan as everything that Japan has to offer. Japan is not a single identity. If anything, as I said, if there's black and white suit Japan, there's also the kind of Japan which hired me through a long-term internship. So it's a matter of not stereotyping and looking for the company that is the best fit for you. So that's the first thing. So not stereotyping, because many people will stereotype. Number two is one of the big issues is that many students, when they job hunt, they go for the obvious places.
Like Toshiba, Mitsubishi,
Mhm.
and
There are two ways that people do obvious choices. Number one is they look for companies that they already know.
Mhm.
So you're looking at, as consumers, we know what Google is.
Of course. Yeah.
But the thing is that in the same field, you have companies like SAP. So companies which do business with other companies, right?
Mhm.
Most students don't know these companies, and they forget about these companies. So like things like forgetting about B2B companies is one very common mistake.
Mhm.
Another common mistake is not looking at the SMEs. But I know why people want to go for the big companies. If you go to a big company, you would expect more security. You would expect a better name on your resume. You would expect also when you write home to your mom and you say that and you say that I'm now in Toshiba, I'm now in Fujitsu, especially because I'm from Singapore, and the thing
Yeah,
is
yeah.
you saw East
Crazy
Asian,
Rich Asian thing.
not really crazy rich Asians, but I mean this thing about familial pride and whether your mom is going to come and ask you whether this is a safe company or not. There are these things. Your family will be very proud if you join a big company, but on the other hand, small and medium companies, from my own experience as well, can be very good employers because you tend to learn faster. You tend to
more freedom.
Yeah, more freedom, not necessarily, but more. But it's more likely, and
Mhm.
so not just looking for I mean, you kind of have to broaden your choices.
Yeah.
Another thing that is quite a common thing is thinking only about yourself. And this applies to resumes and this applies to interview technique. And while it seems very obvious, right? When you do job hunting, you need to not talk about what you want to talk about. You have to appeal to an employer.
Of course.
But
Sell yourself.
Yeah, you have to sell yourself. But it's many people that I've seen so far are not selling themselves. They're looking at what they want to buy.
Mhm.
So it's like when a company asks you, why do you want to join us? And the student says, I want to join you because I think that you are a stable company and therefore I won't get retrenched.
Mhm.
There are such people. Or I want to join you because you have you don't have a what do you call it? You don't require your employees to put on a
Speak
suit.
Japanese.
To speak Japanese, something like that. That's not the point. The point is that everywhere in the world, if you want a job, somebody is giving you a salary. You need to prove why you are worth that salary that they give you, not just that you want a salary. Everybody wants salary. Who doesn't want money, right? So these, I think, are the three common issues that I do see for foreign students. Though I think there's actually a lot more, including things like not asking for help.
Hey, did you see our subscribers? Oh, you are our subscriber. Don't forget to hit like, and subscribe button, plus leave the comments so Tokyo's State of Mind can create more great content for you. Enjoy your video. Like you mean for references for your senpais, like calling how that is it also how does network work here, like when it comes to job hunting?
They work in a very different way compared to overseas. In the first place, because of the traditional job hunting system in Japan, it's often the case is that even if you have a reference from a senpai, right, you still have to go through a typical job hunting system, especially in big companies. But if you're talking about small and medium companies, it's actually quite common for, let's say, if the senpai says that maybe I can introduce you to the HR and then you get hired. It does happen that
So
way.
it happens by referral as well.
Yeah, it does happen by referral. Not so much in fresh graduates, but it does happen as well. I want to say a side point as well regarding this because it is important. My own experience has been that the foreign students who are the most successful in their job hunting tend to be the people who have done the most work and activities outside school instead of inside school. So it means, networking, it means volunteering, it means participating in conferences.
And pretty much showing yourself.
Yes, and internships, even baito, arubaito. Because this is the kind of experience that will increase your network, increase the number of people you can ask for help regarding, let's say, interview technique or like referrals as well. So while I'm sure that I shouldn't be saying this too loud because some professors will get angry at me for distracting their students, it's really true that if you are still quite early in your student career in Japan, my real advice is don't keep yourself to school.
Don't sit in your lab the whole time.
Don't sit in your lab the whole time because the thing is that's a very, very small slice of society. You don't get to know that many people.
That's true. Actually, that's what I also noticed that we already talked to Haruka from BARC.
From BARC, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we talked about that. A lot of students, you see the same pattern. They come here for 2 years, they stay in their lab. Maybe they do a couple of baito, but they don't really expand their network and they just go home. And they don't even consider Japan because they see only Japan like within their lab and that's it.
It's a waste. It's a waste because I don't think anybody comes to Japan to just live their whole life in their lab. There's much more to experience, and that experience actually helps you even if you go back home because you have a deeper understanding of Japanese society if you do work here. It's a whole different field of experience working in Japan versus just studying, right? And if you have that working experience, even when you're a student, like, it really does inform you more about Japanese society.
Yeah, I see. So I also remember like that during this MEXT gathering where me and Katya participated, there was one of the speakers, Gustavo, who was talking about how it is important to be a purple cow, like somebody who is not afraid to show yourself. And because people have this image that if you are doing job hunting in Japan, you just should have like this proper suit, sit straight, and just like have all your questions memorized. So what can you tell about being a purple cow? How really important is that?
I think that I need to add a bit on to what Gustavo said about being a purple cow. You have to be a purple cow and you have to find a good farm which will like
the purple farm.
Purple farm, because honestly speaking, so Gustavo, his experience was that he did a very nice resume with very very not the typical Japanese resume, and he sent it to Sony, and he got hired. If you just do that for the typical Japanese firm, that may not succeed. But if you're a purple cow, I guess it's a bit of a complex conversation. Not every Japanese company is going to appreciate that. Clearly not. But if you show yourself that you're purple cow enough and that you actually that you can actually bring value to somebody else, then there will be enough people to appreciate you. And there's multiple strategies for approaching Japan. I'm more of the purple cow sort myself as well. But yeah. How can I respond to that though? I guess if you're talking about purple cows, do many things, expose yourself about regarding your achievements, and somebody will take notice.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think some universities are doing better job than the others, right?
Regarding job hunting, like support and stuff like that.
Right, right.
Definitely. I shouldn't name names, but we know, right? We know, right? Yeah. No, seriously. Okay, I'll speak a bit of the universities, and this is not meant as a criticism; it is a statement of fact. University career centers are not equipped very much to deal with foreign student career support. There is firstly the language issue. Most university career centers don't really function in English. Um, the second thing is that the universities often only know the Japanese job hunting system, but not how foreigners can actually shortcut it sometimes. Working with recruiters, how to search for foreign-friendly companies, these kind of things.
Right.
So the amount of support that Japanese university career centers often offer is limited, but
Mhm.
there are exceptions. Now here I can give names because it's positive examples, right?
Right.
Tohoku University, I'm aware that they're doing a very interesting, internship program with
Mhm.
with local companies over there in Tohoku. I'm aware that Waseda actually has a relatively strong career support, uh,
Mhm.
for example. Yeah, so there are some good cases, but the majority I would say are not equipped.
Mhm. I see. And speaking about the shortcutting for foreigners,
Yeah.
what kind of shortcuts
Mm,
would you advise like for people to consider when
mm,
they're job hunting in Japan?
mhm. The first thing you need to say is that the majority of companies are not looking for a foreigner.
Mhm.
If you're looking at statistics from 2017, I believe that by Minabi, you're looking at statistics which show that only 1 in 5 companies in Japan so far has any experience hiring a foreigner with an N2 and above level of Japanese. For companies which, the percentage of companies which have hired a foreigner without at least an N2, 3%. So the thing is very low.
Mhm.
As a foreigner, I would say that you are disadvantaged. But you are also advantaged in the way that there are some companies which are specifically looking for foreigners. What are these kind of companies? For example, I'm from Singapore, right? I will get an advantage if I job hunt for companies which are looking to expand to Singapore or already have an office in Singapore,
Mhm.
generally speaking. So this is one shortcut you can use. Look for companies which have an interest in your home country or your home region, or who are looking for language speakers of a language that you speak. That's one thing. Number two is generally you would want to. Okay, so Japanese shukatsu often happens in the way that, okay, March comes, everybody gets a recruit suit and they go to these Godo Setsumekai, these
Yeah, it's
huge
like
job
let
fairs.
the Hunger Games
Okay, let
begin.
the Hunger Games begin. Different type of hunger though, because at the same time there are also foreign student job fairs, and clearly companies which participate in foreign student job fairs are open to hiring foreigners. So my advice is also don't bother that much with those big Godo Setsumekai. Go for the foreign friendly ryugakusei muke job fairs. Another one is work with recruiters.
Mhm.
Like a 留学生エージェント、就職 agent. Because recruiters are one of the few ways that one of the few parties which give you individualized advice. And it's very rare to find that kind of advice here in Japan. And also because I am aware that there are cases where the recruiter's recommendation has made the interviewee skip all the way to the last interview, for example. So there are these kind of things. So I guess to summarize, look for companies which have an interest in your background.
Mhm.
Number two, look for events which are advertised as ryugakusei muke, open to foreigners or welcoming to foreign students. Number three, work with foreign student recruiters.
I also heard that
Mm.
sometimes during the interviews, some companies are intentionally like ask interviews those distracting questions in order to test how focused they are.
different companies do different interviews. Some of them do funny things.
Yeah.
I will say that in Japanese interviews, there are often lots of landmines, though.
Really?
Mm.
Oh.
So this goes back to my point about needing to understand companies. If you look at surveys for general companies in Japan, right? If they're looking, I think this was information produced by Jasso, if I'm
Mhm.
not wrong. But they did a survey for companies, and they asked them, when you are hiring a foreign student, what do you look for?
Mhm.
Number one, Japanese ability comes up. Number two is cooperativeness.
Mm.
That's number two. And so when you are in an interview, they're looking for a few things like, whether they find you cooperative or whether they find your personality too strong or something like that. One thing I would say though, if the interviewer asks you, oh, you're a foreigner, how long do you think you're going to stay in Japan?
Mhm.
There is a correct answer. So if an interviewer asks you, how long do you think you are going to stay in Japan, right? Or how long do you think you're going to stay in this company? What's the correct answer?
As much as you want me to stay.
No, that's not the correct answer. It's close, but it's not the correct answer.
The correct answer, I don't know. I, I devote my life to this company. I don't know.
Yes.
Right?
That is really that. So many people will say, maybe I'll think about it in 3 or 5 years.
Batsu.
So there are these landmines. I can't say for a fact whether there are many companies ask you distracting questions. Different companies have different interview techniques that their interviewers use. But just be aware, to anybody listening to this, I would say just be aware there are certain landmines in Japanese interviews, such as this question about how long are you going to stay, and especially during things such as the group interview, whether you are trying to talk over the people you are group interviewing with, that will be a landmine as well.
Mhm.
So there's stuff like that.
Mhm. What do you mean by talk over?
So group interviews are work in a way where there's multiple things. There's group interviews and there's group work. Group interviews, this is just based on my impression. So interviewer, 5 people sitting down, right?
Mhm.
Oh, in the first place, there's also interview technique, like interview etiquette. When you enter the room, how many times do you knock on the door?
What is the angle like?
Yeah, a bit of that. So
Wow.
I think it's
Yeah.
stupid, but if you're job hunting, your main priority should not be whether it's stupid.
Yeah. So there are people in a line during the interview, sitting all proper in suits.
So the landmines are, firstly, if you're in a group interview with Japanese people, whether you're going to look weird based on your etiquette, clearly, yeah.
Mhm.
So the idea, okay, so you enter the room, gong gong, shitsure shimasu, open the door, and then you go into the room, and then you're supposed to bow once, like yeah, and then everybody goes in. You put your bag, I think, on the right or something like that. Like if everybody does the same thing and you don't do the same thing, clearly
You're not cooperative.
you will stand out, and not necessarily in a good way.
Mhm.
And maybe, for example, if you try to talk too much
Mhm.
in this group interview because you're taking somebody else's time as well.
Oh, I see. So you're not considerate. Mhm.
So that's one thing. Another thing is that many companies do group work, as in they ask you to perform a task in a group, and then they kind of observe how you work with your other, like your Japanese group mates and stuff like that. Whether you are trying to talk too much, whether you are trying to whether you're listening to them or something like that, or like
take over.
Yeah. So these kind of things that may be possible, like bombs, like for people who I won't generalize, but I would say that there are some cultures, for example, where where standing your ground and giving like a direct stance and directly disagreeing is actually a good thing.
Right. Yeah.
But that may not be the way that Japan usually works. But as I said before, that is the normal. There are also companies which want you to have a direct opinion and want you to state it. So if you, there are 2 ways of doing things. One is you try to fit yourself into the normal, and the other one is you try to find, like, what do you call it? Like you try to find weird companies that will accept your weirdness. Be the purple cow and be in a purple cow in a purple farm. That's also one way of doing things. Yeah.
I see. So I think so. basically your biggest advice is don't try to find the place that where you don't belong in the first place.
And at least that has been the strategy that has worked for me.
Hmm.
Me being a freelancer and everything like that,
How did it work for you? Like, so you got the job without ever go like wearing the suit, without
Mm,
ever going through this like hell of a process.
mm.
Can you share your story?
For me, it's actually not that complicated. I got my first job through a long-term internship.
Hmm.
So this is where I was entering. I was in a company for like 3 months as an intern, and I was doing work for them, and they liked what I did,
Yeah.
and so they hired me. Full stop. And there are long-term internships in Japan. So especially in the startup scene.
Hmm.
So if you actually want to get paid, get experience, and maybe get a job offer at the same time, consider doing a long-term internship is what I would say. Um, yeah, and through that I bypassed the whole thing, and I actually got a job offer like extremely early compared to the rest of my classmates.
Hmm.
Though that being said, I mean, like, it was a startup, so clearly this kind of recruitment method is more applicable for startups compared to
They don't have time to waste for the job hunting.
mm, 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 mm. But yeah, you can do these kind of things. Yeah.
I see. So for somebody who is looking to, who is aspiring
Mm.
to do the job hunting like this year during Corona time, what would you advise to do?
Now, to be very realistic, the corona situation is making job hunting very difficult for everyone. Um, the same techniques apply though. Reach out to your network. Look for any kind of online recruitment events that is foreign friendly. MSA worked with a few companies that will do these kind of things. So you're looking at places like Connect Job. You're looking at places like Disco, which are still doing like online job fairs. If anything, Disco is actually quite special this year. Disco is the company behind Boston Career Forum, but this time Boston Career Forum is no longer in Boston. It's online, so you actually don't need to even fly to Boston to actually participate.
Yeah, which is
So
cool.
it's cool. There are a few of these kind of opportunities which are not usually available.
Hmm.
Work with recruiters. It's really the same technique. I think it's just that maybe you have to work harder.
Right. You
I
have
have to say one
yeah.
additional thing as well. As of I think 3 months ago, the percentage of Japanese university students which already secured a job offer and who are graduating next March, right? It was more than 75%. While coronavirus has made things quite hard, Japan's early career recruitment market is still relatively sheltered compared to the rest of the world. And I can say this as Singaporean as well. So the thing is, as a Singaporean, right? What I can say is that in Singapore there is no mid-career and fresh graduate like barrier, right? So what chances does the fresh graduate have to get hired when experience is treasured?
Mhm.
Japan's recruitment system actually has worked in a way that makes it more possible for fresh graduates to actually get a job. So in that sense, while job hunting in Japan is quite difficult right now, on the other hand, I would tell people if you think it's difficult, you're trying job hunting overseas. It's worse. Yeah.
Crazy. You mean by overseas? You mean Singapore?
Oh, everywhere. Because okay, I know that like South Korea and like China, and maybe like Taiwan, maybe they have different like maybe recruitment systems which are somewhat similar to Japan. I'm not sure, but in most other countries that I know of, there is no like shelter for fresh graduates, right? So in any of these countries, um, finding a job will be more difficult than finding a job in Japan, in my opinion. And not to mention that the unemployment rate in Japan is still very low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Or
Mm.
unless they make good job for making it low
Yeah,
or showing it low.
there
Yeah.
is underemployment in Japan, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, everything is comparative here.
Mhm.
Coronavirus is making life difficult for everywhere in the world, but maybe for a fresh graduate, things are not as difficult here. Is what I really want to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Austin, for
Mhm.
your amazing advices and your input. Like, I'm very impressed how most of what you said is backed up by research data, which is so cool.
One piece of advice though: always talk to more people than just one person. I have my own opinion. My opinion is slanted towards startups.
I
Yeah.
see. I see.
So talk to more people. Get more
Right.
information. More information is better. Get more perspective.
The more the better. That's
Yep.
true.
Yep.
That's true. Actually, that's my life credo as well. I believe that the more you talk to people, the more opportunities and the more choices you have
That's
in
why we have
life.
this podcast, right?
That's why we do the podcast.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Thank you, Austin, so much. Today, having this conversation, we'll learn how to do a successful job hunting in Japan. What kind of challenges, what kind of demands in the market, what kind of people out there. So hope this episode inspired you and motivated you to talk to more people like Austin. And by the way, how people can find you if they
Okay.
want.
So
talk.
I do have my blog at my name AUSTIN-ZENG.com. Recently, I do have some like career information already up.
So I think you shouldn't hesitate to reach out to MSA, which is a very
Yep.
extremely helpful platform, and us as well. We'll try to do our best to connect you with the right people. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, comment, share, and if you know somebody who is having struggles with job hunting, this material should be very useful. Thank you so much, and see you next week.